This is Next Radio 2016 with Broadcast Bionics. Innovative solutions for creative people.
Good morning. Yeah, my presentation is called The Power of the Sound of Sam, but please just insert your own name there. I'm not on an ego trip. We all have our own ego, so please insert your own name there. And the two areas of sound I'm most fascinated with are firstly the sort of passive area of hearing stuff, which is all in the realm of the subconscious, and secondly the most active part, which is all about attention. And I'm just going to tell you a very quick story, 18-minute story. And just to explain why I got interested in sound in the first place, it's a very personal one. I'm completely deaf. I'm mono-aural. I can only hear through one of my ears. I probably had mumps as a baby that wasn't diagnosed. And it meant I was very slow at reading and writing. My attention was appalling at school. But I was very fortunate in that my dad was a doctor, GP. He hadn't picked up I had mumps or that I was deaf when I started school. Yeah, fair enough. But he did this theory that the two hemispheres of the human brain have a bias towards factual or emotional information. So I went to a musical school. This is a recording of me singing in the Tewkesbury Abbey Choir, which I did every fucking night of the week. But my reading and writing really improved because of a musical education. And this was actually a recording on the World Service that the producer at the time told us was reaching about 500 million people. So as a young boy in the 1980s, you can imagine how radio really sort of stuck in my mind. Now, the first sound we're all aware of is our mother's heartbeat. That's 90 decibels for 6 months in the womb. It's the first of the senses to develop in a fetus. And then we come out into the world and there's sounds like natural birdsong that automatically relax us. The reason for that is because of evolution, because our ancestors would have used birdsong as an indicator whether there are predators in an environment. Birds will go into an alarm state if they're not. And then we come out into the world and we've got a gob. We can make sound. This is my daughter, Sylvie. One of the first reactions they do is to their own name as well. I mean, what the hell does mean? You kind of instinctively know, because that is the sound of a smile. That means that is a genuine conversation between a mother and a daughter. That all came from not a word, but just a particular sound. Now, this whole area is something called linguistics.
The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely.
And this is Diana Deutsch. Diana Deutsch is an expert on linguistics. I came across her work because I listened to her interview on This American Life podcast. And she was recording this section of her voice, and she put it on loop. As producers will know, you put things on loop to hear the pss and the pops and stuff. And then after a while, she goes to make a cup of tea. But then when she's making a cup of tea, she goes, "What's that singing? I thought I recorded myself talking." But the way that she'd looped it, she highlighted a phenomenon of our voices.
So strangely.
You still hear the words, but they're sung words rather than spoken words.
The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely.
Strange, isn't it? The first time you hear it, it's a spoken word. Once the musical elements are pointed out, it sounds like this mad woman bursting into song for no apparent reason. But the fact is, the more emotional we become, the more we vary volume, intonation, and rhythm. We sing more and more to one another. You know, one of the most famous emotional speeches ever, Martin Luther King, but it's a musical hook. I have a dream today. Barack Obama copied Martin Luther King's speeches, and the same sort of technique, the repetition of certain key words and phrases, and then deliberately delivering his speeches in a musical way, you know, taking those sort of key phrases. He was behind in the polls before the Black Eyed Peas turned that into a track and it went viral. Now, if you brain scan any human being while they're making sound or listening to sound, the part of the brain that lights up in a CT scanner is very closely linked to memory. After smell, it is the most closely linked sense to memory. And humans have known this for millions of years, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. This is a recording of an ancient Aboriginal song line. There are dozens of these song lines in the Aboriginal culture. And what they are, they're chants describing geographical features in the outback in Australia in dead straight lines. And what each of them do is they describe the path to water. Because if you're a society trying to survive in a dry, desert, barren environment like the outback in Australia, you need a way of mapping where these water holes are and then also passing that information effectively within their culture. And they realized that if you make it musical, if you make it into a chant, it becomes more memorable. And particularly to pass that on to the younger generations. Children learn language by looking for those emotional patterns in their parents' voices. That was my son Woody doing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. It's not what you say, it's the way that you say it. And that then gives us a real sort of purpose. When we're an emotional teenager, we're learning what it means to be a human being. I was an emotional teenager, and I watched Freddie Mercury at Live Aid. Now, a lot of people watched that. I went and bought Queen's Greatest Hits. That same year, I went to Anfield, big Liverpool fan. And you hear a whole stadium singing the same song. It's a very powerful, emotional experience. Not least because singing together, you have to coordinate your breathing. If you coordinate your breathing, all your heart rates become synced. It increases endorphins. It can reduce pain. It creates this sense of community and togetherness. And that is why humans love music the way that we do, because of that connection to what makes us human, our ability to express emotions.
I have no idea to this day what those two Italian ladies were singing about. Truth is, I don't want to know. Some things are best left unsaid. I like to think they were singing about something so beautiful it can't be expressed in words, and makes your heart ache because of it. I tell you, those voices soared, higher and farther than anybody in a great place dares to dream. It was like some beautiful bird flapped into our drab little cage and made those walls dissolve away. And for the briefest of moments, every last man at Shawshank felt free.
That is the best description of music that I found. I just love to play that. But the essence of it, it didn't matter what the singers were singing about. It's about how it made them feel. And this is what brands have cottoned onto. British Airways were one of the very earliest, using the Flower Duet by Delibes. It doesn't matter what's being sung in it. The music, what it means, how it makes you feel is so crucial. And they used it everywhere, on the planes, on the telephone system, on the cinema ads, on the radio ads, everywhere.
Would the remaining passengers for Vienna please go immediately to gate 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, left 2, 3, right 2, 3, left.
Because British Airways flies from London Gatwick's Quieter North Terminal, you can simply walk.
All right, it's an old ad. Gatwick North Terminal's nothing like that anymore. But the point is, I mean, if you look at, there's a guy called Robert Heath from Bath Business School, and he wrote in a book called Seducing the Subconscious. And he talks all about British Airways and why they, their brand values are so tied in with that. Because even today, when you ask people, what do you feel when you hear this music? They say three things: relaxation, comfort, and floating on air. Those are three perfect things to make people feel about your brand if you're in the airline industry. Does it make their advertising work any harder, though? And we couldn't find any research in those days. So we commissioned some from a guy called Professor Adrian North from Leicester University. He said, let's have 5 brands with different brand values. So we had a chocolate bar, a cleaning product, a bank, an American people carrier. And the core values of the bank were heritage and stability. The chocolate bar were luxurious and indulgent. We pre-tested music, so people selected music that had those values. And then we had music that didn't have those values. We wrote radio scripts, same voiceover, same script over fit music, non-fit music, and then crucially the voice on its own with no music behind. And then we did hall tests. We got people coming in and doing a puzzle. And we said, while they do the puzzle, we'll put the radio in the background so their attention wasn't drawn to the radio deliberately. Then we asked them questions about the radio advertising. And these ads were in the ad breaks. The recall on every dynamic, which product was being advertised, what brand represented that product, and what that brand was asking you to do, were all 50% higher when the music fitted what you expect that brand values to have. And that was over the no music at all. And Professor Adrian North said a lot of the clues for that could have been in a research project he'd done just before that drew our attention to his work. He'd done a display of wine in a supermarket. You might have heard about this study. Half the display was French wine, and the other half was German wine. And for a week, he had French music playing behind the display. The French wine outsold the German wine by 5 bottles to 1. Now you think, well, French wine's nicer than German wine. Maybe you'd pick that instinctively. The next week, the only thing he changed was the music. Started playing German music, Papa music. The German wine then outsold the French wine by 3 bottles to 1. Statistically, that's an enormous switch, but the most fascinating thing about that study was everyone that went through the checkout was asked a very simple question. Was your purchase affected by the music? Only 1 person out of over 300 that were involved in that study even noticed there was music playing. So what is going on? Well, the fact is the human brain, we now know, is processing up to 40 million bits of information every single second, which is an astonishing amount. But we can only consciously process 1/1,000,000th of that total, 40 bits of information, what we're seeing, what we're smelling, what we're touching. So the process to go from hearing, the subconscious, into the active, the conscious process is absolutely crucial. But even when we're not paying attention, it has a significant effect. And a lot of this is down to conditioning. We are conditioned to our environment. Now, classical conditioning you'll know from Pavlov and Pavlov's dogs. When he fed his dogs, he rang a bell, he conditioned the dogs to the sound of the bell and the arrival of the food, to a point where he could ring the bell and not put down food, and the dogs salivate because they're expecting the food. Now, you'd love to think that we're more advanced than dogs. We're not. We're very, very susceptible to human conditioning. And the fact is that our modern world is full of noise, that we are actually conditioned to a very noisy world, where there's all sorts of noise and communications that's going on. So more than ever, it's really important to understand the process that takes people from that sort of subconscious way of hearing into the conscious way of listening. And particularly for me, because selective attention is the crucial thing, the cocktail party effect. You know, where you might not be listening to a conversation, but you hear someone saying your name over there, and you're automatically drawn to it, because we're filtering all that information. Ice cream van, relevant message at a relevant time in a relevant place.
Hey lads, you know what you got to do? Nosy, run with the ball and kick it in the back of the net. Big man, run with the ball and kick it in the back of the net. Wingers, Stevie and Steve, run as quick as you can and kick the ball in the back of the net. Keeper, you kick the ball as far as you can, straight in the back of the net. Now get out there and kick the ball in the back of their net more times than they kick the ball in the back of our net. Got it?
Carlsberg don't do tactics. But if we did, they'd probably be the best tactics in the world.
And that was an ad that went first in an ad break in the middle of a World Cup commentary match. Relevance. But the beauty of that concept is you can go to a match.
A very important message for Don's fan, Mr. Derek Wilkinson. And a message from your wife, who's just called from St. George's Hospital, where she's given birth to a healthy 6 pounds, 4 hours baby boy. She's also agreed to your suggestion to call him Frankie Everard, Sig, Mickey, Fergie Everard, Quinny, Roscoe, Terry Brown's Yellow and Blue Army, Marcus Gale, Everard Wilkinson. In the message she also says that now would be a good time to get an au pair, and you may like to get one from Sweden. She says she'll get a taxi back from the hospital on Tuesday, so you don't have to miss the game away at Crawley. This announcement was brought to you by Carlsberg. Carlsberg don't do wives, but if they did, they'd probably be the best wives in the world. Carlsberg sponsors of the
Brilliant bit of audio. But the relevance, they could change the script to the different stadium they're playing in. And that's what we're all about at A Million Ads. It's about making advertising, making messaging more relevant to the listeners, taking them from hearing to listening. I mean, even if you just know a little bit of data about gender and things, wouldn't you tailor the messaging accordingly? This is something we did just before Christmas.
Not sure what to get him for Christmas? Well, how about this for a really good idea? Readly. He'll love it. For just £9.99 a month, he can get unlimited access to thousands of the most popular magazines, including Top Gear, Stuff, and Empire. And because Readly can be shared across 5 devices, you can get your hands on your favourites too, including Grazia, OK and Heat. So Readly.
And this was on Bauer's in-stream product where we could put that out, we could target. But you can hear how that script, you could very easily just switch gender and gift the other way.
Get her for Christmas? Well, how about this for a really good idea?
Now, the click-through rate on this radio ad was 1.5%, which doesn't sound like much, but in the digital world, that's enormous. 150 people out of 1,000 clicked on an audio ad. That's extraordinary. But the thing about a million ads is we take all sorts of other data, whether people are a customer of a service or not.
And to thank you for being a British Gas customer, we'll do one for you for free. That'll put a smile on your face, isn't that right, Steve? Free boiler health checks from British Gas, looking after your world.
And knowing where people are, geolocation is a fascinating thing. So adding that sort of dynamic to audio content and delivering it on the fly.
I really love Pure Gym because there's loads of free classes and there's one near you. Your closest is Piccadilly. You've got until Sunday to get involved with the no joining fee offer, so find out more now at puregym.com. Right, that's me done. Back to the music.
But really the fascinating thing is where you take the data of what people know about a customer or whatever, and you lay that on top of the communication as well. You can do some interesting things.
The answer is simple. Become a monster. Right now, Monster has at least 70 jobs near here that would suit you perfectly. So don't just sit there, go grab them. After all, nothing gets in the way of a monster. Tap your screen now to become a monster.
And really the thing, since I've been joining A Million Ads, was to sort of think, well, how far can this go? And this is a demo that we've done for Starbucks, where we were trying to think of all the different data points, and can we put them into a script? And so this bit of audio you're going to listen to is created on the fly. All the little variables are recorded and then loaded.
You woke up. You are awake, aren't you? You checked your phone. Everybody does. You opened the curtains. Ah, sunny. You brushed your teeth. You did it right. Properly. You headed for work. It is Monday. You imagine breakfast. An espresso macchiato and a breakfast wrap. You opened the Starbucks mobile app. You found your nearest store. Here in beautiful London. You pre-booked, paid by phone, and rocked up as they called out. You earned your reward stars. Oh, free coffee next time. You smash the meeting. You win the contract. You get promoted. Whoa, hold on. So you don't have the Starbucks app? Well, you'd better tap your screen now and get it then.
So then by loading the different variables in, this campaign actually has about 240,000 different versions. You could do it by gender, so you can change your voice.
Open the curtains. Ooh, snow.
Weather
You
data.
You did right, properly. You headed for work. It is Monday.
Time of day, day of week.
Flat white with an egg and cheddar breakfast
We can do
sandwich.
different products. So different product for different weather, different locations.
You found your nearest store here in beautiful Chicago.
Geolocation, so we know where people are.
Rocked up as they called out.
And names, record 400 names, you can get 80% of the population's names.
You win the contract. You get promoted. Hold on. So you don't have the Starbucks app?
And I think eventually when we know apps and we can tap into whether people have got it or not, or sending messages via an app after they've heard an audio message is a really sort of fascinating thing. And so that's what it's all about. Now, you have to sort of think, is it going to be the future? Well, hopefully I've demonstrated a little bit, it's all about our past. It's the way that human beings interact in every single conversation you've ever had. You use data about the person that you're engaging every single conversation. So why wouldn't brands, radio stations, whoever, if you know something about them, add that to the messaging that you put out. So if you want to come and talk to me in the pub, we can talk about Freddie Mercury, we can talk about Liverpool Football Club, but just remember, talking to this ear, because in a busy pub, I will not hear anything on this side of my head. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
This is Next Radio 2016 with Broadcast Bionics. Innovative solutions for creative people.